Poll question. We didn't do one last week. My bad. Let's go ahead and give you a poll question. It's about, we'll be talking about the pilot thing a little later, but basically, how do you feel about corporate sponsors at Tennessee? Option 1, I don't mind any of it. Option 2, it's fine if the cash equals winning. Okay with logos, but not with names, or I hate every bit of it. So you can take your smartphone and hit the QR code and use that. Or you can go to sportsource.tv/polls, and it seems like a lot of you already have. But go ahead and vote, and we'll watch those little orange lines move. And you can tell us if you don't care, if you want to halfway it, if you do care about this corporate sponsor thing. And we will talk about that a little bit later in this show. But let's continue what we were talking about. Tennessee has averaged 9 wins a year over the last 3 years. They were ranked number 1 a week in November a couple of years ago. They've won the Orange Bowl and the Citrus Bowl. Their recruiting is almost top 5 in the nation at this point. They keep getting top players in the country. Significantly, they have had no major off-field issues, which is a big change for Tennessee. So, my question, and Ryan, you and I will lay out of this, because we asked something similar back before this great recruiting run, so maybe it's changed for these folks. When was the last time Tennessee was running at this level? When was the last time Tennessee was this stable overall in its football program? Anyone?
I'll be bold and say it feels like the early 2000s when they were consistently winning 9 to 10 games. They were tied for the SEC East or winning the SEC East, getting to the conference championship. Of course, I was with Philip Fulmer. They had, great talent there. That's when you're, in that 2000 era, 2003-04. I think they're kind of getting back to that where they're consistently top in the SEC. They've got the talent there. They've got consistent coaching, reliable staff. I would say it probably resembles early 2000s.
Yeah, I think
That's my answer, 2001 to 2004.
Yeah.
So you get the gold check.
Yeah, definitely have to go to the Fulmer era. And not only was it great talent, it had been sustained for a while. This run doesn't surpass that because they have to sustain it for a longer period of time, but it was NFL talent. And they had that established, that pipeline to the NFL. That's still another box to be checked with this era. But if you're talking about since, then yeah, it is going back to those years at Fulmer.
Yeah, I think it was pre-2005, before the fall off, and not to the 98 where you're winning nationals, but at 01 to 04, that's about a 10-win kind of a year. You had an 8-win year thrown in there, but you were really, really stable at that point. Now, but even then, I'll say this, even then you always had off-field issues. I mean, people remember the Fulmer Cup. So I'm not sure what went on between 01 and 04. My mind is, it's been a while. That's when we were starting the show. I was a young man. So I don't remember what those specific years brought, but I'm guessing there were some off-field issues. There typically were.
If you go back to the encyclopedia, or if you want to go back to the Ballopedia of those years, let's talk about everything except the off-field issues because there were still some tomfoolery, numbskull things happening. But the wins on the football field, yeah, I'll just say one name, Casey Clausen. That's what I think of. When Clausen left and you started making that transition, I mean, this isn't me going out. I think around that Ainge Schaefer years and making your way through then we know what happened in 08 with Fulmer, it's probably right there with Casey Clausen. You were beating Florida in the swamp. You were constantly being talked about as a team that could win the East or get back into the East race. You're talking about BCSs. It's around that area. It seems like when Clausen went back to Thousand Oaks, it was around that time when you started seeing the roller coaster start dipping.
There were some blips.
Yeah.
Ryan, you agree with that? Is that what you said back then?
I was trying to remember that. I believe my answer was around that same time. I would agree with that. I think the key is, they've got to get the wins. That's the thing they had back then. They were in 2 SEC championship games in 01 and 04. That was a little bit different era for the SEC. I think
harder to get there now with the way they're doing it.
That's the one thing that's changed is I think Tennessee's program is as stable as it was then, but now they've got to get the results in a tougher conference where doing what they're doing now is great, but you could be 6th in the SEC and never play for a championship, never win one in this era.
But you can get to the playoff, which may
open the door for more.
May open the door. Yeah, it's going to change the way we look at conference game appearances, I think.
Yeah. That's an important distinction, and also I think the national perception, they still have work to do to get back to that.
Let's hold on right there. That's a perfect tease. You should be in radio. Okay, when we come back, let's talk about who are the top 10 programs in the country right now, and is Tennessee, have they clawed their way back in there? In the late 90s, everybody in the country, in the 90s, people in the country would have said, oh yeah, Tennessee's a top 10 program. That fell away. Teams rise and fall. Has Tennessee risen again? If not, what do they need to do? Come on back.